chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something...
Donald, you must move your head.
Shenzo, you died, and I'd never got the chance to say goodbye.
Donald, I don't say goodbye. You need to remember your training. Move your head. I cannot explain. I must go.
Wait, Shenzo, if I never see you again, then and see you later, Space Cowboy.
But you will see me again, because there is one last thing that I must do.
Months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take Thank you, Shinzo.
I'll guard the roads, and I'll guard the skies.
Look, I gotta get some. Look at that stuff. This is what I want. Just have it. We gotta get it.
My mom just got a bag of that, actually.
Is it good stuff? Good?
She says it's the best.
Is that the best?
She says it's the best.
If it is, I'll be in Washington, D.C., hopefully in the Oval Office. I'll send for popcorn. Okay?
Appreciate that.
I'm hearing this story more and more. People are fed up. Bring that orange fella back. ASAP.
So, like many Americans, up until recently, I did not care about politics. Quite honestly, I didn't even vote until 2020. I've ended friendships over views that are just not okay. Why do I have a college degree and I make decent money and I'm living with family? I can't afford groceries. I can't afford my car payment. I can't afford anything. My parents have to help me, quite honestly, and I'm going to be 30 years old. I really want to know, this is my question for the people that think that this country is okay. What are you watching? What algorithm are you on to think that this country is okay? What job do you have? What do your bills look like? What is your income? Like, I really want to know, because I am just lost. I am so confused.
Good morning. It is 5:30 a.m. if you're on the East Coast. It is 2:30 a.m. if you're up late with us on the West Coast. Donald Trump is on the verge of returning to the White House at this hour. The former president speaking to supporters earlier this morning, claiming victory, surrounded by family, telling supporters that they made history. The NBC Decision Desk has not yet called the presidency for Donald Trump, but realistically, we can say that Kamala Harris, the vice president, has no viable path to 270 in terms of electoral college votes at this point.
Booyah. Happy New Year in 2 hours. Hey, I'm Nate Hausman, your guide to the 21st century. How's it going? I haven't been alive for a while, but that's because I'm just scrambling, trying to keep up, trying to come up with a good, theme for a video, but screw it. I'm just going to spitball and just go through a whole boatload of news articles and tweets during this New Year's Eve. I'm going to stretch it out as long as I can. It is 9 o'clock where I am in the central time zone. We're going to go for maybe 3 hours, 6 hours, because I want to be here for, all 4 time zones in the U.S., in the continental U.S. for midnight. All right. Let's kind of go over what where I left off last November. Trump won with a clear mandate. He is the rightful president. And we had a good, few weeks where we could just, decompress and celebrate. and totally, discredit the corporate media. And now shenanigans. We've got weird fog. We've had drones. We had got war brewing with Russia and China. We got bird flu. We got economic collapse. If you follow Dave on the X-23 report, there's a multi-pronged attack to either avoid certifying President Trump on January 6th or just make his second term impossible. We're going to see what happens on January 6th, which path they take. Either way, we can be confident that Trump and the Patriots and the White Hats all around the world are prepared. We don't know we don't know what they're going to do exactly. Maybe we're not supposed to know, but we can piece it together. This is an information war. Really, every war is an information war. If you ever read Art of War, war is based on deception. So we are allowed to have information. The enemy is not. So, but let's just get started here. I got a whole bunch of articles rounded up here. We're going to talk about the economy. We're going to talk about Trump. We're going to talk about the deep state. We're going to talk about Hollywood. We're going to talk about video games. We're going to talk about the economy. And Awaken Outlaw, this tweet from yesterday, sums up the last 2 months very well. Awaken Outlaw says, 40,000-foot view. Let's do a quick review. Trump won, and we had a few weeks of downtime, which was entirely necessary, mentally, physically, and spiritually. The whole of the election season was a lot to shoulder. But then after Thanksgiving, we've experienced all kinds of things that 100% stirred up the hive, as it were. Compelling conversations that had to be on things that were certainly a net positive for Trump, or at the very least serving as a means to shape the battlefield ahead of his inauguration. For example, the whole kerfuffle over the continuing resolution and how it really drove home the way sausage is made in D.C., including vast amounts of pork and the Dems seeking to use the document to indemnify their fraudulent J6 committee. The Panama Canal, and Panama by proxy, popped into the news thanks to Trump. This includes a spotlight on China's involvement in running what is a vital national security asset. Not to mention that we're getting screwed royally for using something tens of thousands of our own perished building. Oh, and how it's being used as a hub for NGOs to engage in, facilitate human trafficking in support of the invasion of illegals into the U.S. Trump's odd post on Truth Social to Bill Gates regarding invitation to Mar-a-Lago, thereby sending a shot across his bow and ending in all the baggage that comes with his New World Order pals. Biden selling off the border wall materials for pennies on the dollar so as to impede Trump's ability to finish building it. The emergence of what appears to be yet another pandemic. And of course, the more recent dust up on H-1B visas. So I didn't hear any debate about the H-1B visas anywhere on Twitter and YouTube channels who discussed what's happening on Twitter. But it's a big deal. Note that these are all things we weren't talking about not all that long ago, and were magically escalated into national conversations. Tens of millions of people who otherwise hadn't given any of this a passing thought now have it all top of mind. Interestingly, though, if you think about it, they all play into things that are going to be part of what Trump is focusing on doing out of the gate. Folks, it's my opinion, this is Awaken Outlaw speaking, it's my opinion that all this is Trump preparing for the battlefield, and doing so before he takes office because it affords him a massive advantage where he'd be interested in moving quickly, which we all hope and pray he will. My 2 cents. So what the White Hats are doing is they're controlling the conversation. Trump is bringing things up, and in the case of H-1Bs, Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon brought the topic up and started a conversation. If Elon was really turning against MAGA and the White Hats, he would have censored that discussion terribly on X, and he didn't. So that's a good sign. Keep that in mind. Now, another tweet I want to read by Cynical Publius regarding Jimmy Carter about Jimmy Carter. Spinning around. All right, Cynical Publius says, I promised many otherwise sensible conservatives spouting the bad president, good man line the Democrat media complex has been spinning for 40 plus years. Thus, I feel the need to drop some truth bombs. Propriety at time of death notwithstanding. Yes, he hammered a few nails on some houses for poor people, but that alone does not make one a good man, when the rest of the track record is so awful. After Carter lost in spectacular fashion in 1980, he did not do what every other president before him did and required to the quiet private life. He could have farmed peanuts and planes with Rosalind. Instead, he bitterly engaged in active and public efforts to undermine the policies of the elected Republicans who came after him. He invented the jealous, manipulative ex-president model that Obama put on steroids in 2016. Jimmy Carter flew around the world for decades, unasked by America, on self-appointed missions of national importance, almost always involving gleefully interacting with raging anti-Semitic terrorists and or communist leaders, always working against the official policies of the actual elected presidents. Carter's hatred for Israel, born on pathological, and reeked of a sort of uncloaked anti-Semitism that has become quite fashionable today. Somehow, Jimmy Carter convinced himself that he was such an important historic figure that he stood outside and above the U.S. systems of election and governance, even though no one other than the Yasser Arafats and Hugo Chavez of the world asked him to do so. Jimmy Carter was a bitter, angry narcissist who cloaked his lifelong, seething rage at the indignity of being body slammed by Reagan, someone he considered lesser than himself in every regard, with that genteel Southern gentleman accent, vague scripture references, and the occasional hammer nail. He purposely and vengefully wreaked havoc on America's foreign policy for decades, and he invented the concept of a meddling ex-president poisoning American political discourse. In that regard, Obama has been Carter version 2.0. We have Carter to thank for that. Literally every aspect of the man's self-serving public life was harmful to America. Because narcissists always operate like that. They cannot help it. They can never admit fault. Carter's good man image was a carefully constructed and nurtured illusion, one that he gladly worked with the corporate media the corrupt media to maintain. So please consider these factors before pronouncing bad president, good man. Sometimes truth needs to be said, even when some find that truth untimely. And yeah, Carter was the first president of my lifetime. Like, I was born when he was in office. Reagan's first president, I remember, and thank God for that, because Reagan was just, if you weren't around in the 80s, it was such a good time to be a kid. I mean, we had G.I. Joe, we had Transformers, we had, the A-Team, we had Magnum P.I., we had He-Man, we had all sorts of cool stuff. And America was just a more positive place back then. Just a more positive attitude. And the 90s, well, Clinton was, no one knew at the time what a snake, demonic, homunculus Bill Clinton was during the 90s. But we were in good spirits then too. And then 9/11 happened, and no one's been happy ever since. But Jimmy Carter he was a wreck. And the fact that Ted Kennedy ran against him in 1980 for the Democrat nomination, the fact that Ted Kennedy is significant because Ted Kennedy was such a Democratic communist blob himself. So, now, by Tyler Durden, authored by Frank Mealy at RealClearPolitics.com, Trump's top 10 best moves of 2024. And I'll just go through I'll just skim it here. But what a year it was. My number 10, If we think of 2024 as election season rather than the calendar year, then the first big move by Trump was skipping the Republican candidate debates starting in August 2023, and thus reducing his opponents to desperate Lilliputians in search of a Gulliver. Without Trump, the public soon lost interest in Tim Scott, Chris Christie, Mike Pence, and Asa Hutchinson. Even Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and Vivek Ramaswamy barely peaked out single digits and were soon vanquished.